Hi, this is Sherry at the Intentional Home Podcast, where I share tips and resources to help you live with intention and purpose. This is episode number 46, and today we're going to be talking about a book that I've been reading that is totally changing everything for my morning routine. I'm so glad to have you here today, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be kind of a book review slash motivational speech. So let's just dig in. Today I want to talk about this book that I've been reading. A few weeks ago, we started reading through this book in our book club in my intentional homemaking membership chat community. We have a little book club in there, and a few of us have been reading through a book called Hello Mornings by Kat Lee. And I can't say enough good things about this book. And we're only on chapter 4, I think, or chapter 4 or 5. It's just so good, and I'm learning so much. And I wanted just to share some thoughts with you so far of some of the things that I am learning, some of the tips that I've gotten and applied, and how much it's helping. So I just wanted to share some of those things with you. I will put a link to this book in the show notes. Again, it's called Hello Mornings by Kat Lee. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at that book, I would highly recommend grabbing yourself a copy and reading it. I think it's just a huge encouragement and blessing and has a lot of good information to help you with getting a morning routine in place. Now, this book, it takes a little bit different approach than what I have seen in other books and resources on setting up a morning routine. And what Kat Lee suggests is that you actually start with a 3-minute morning routine where you just take 1 minute to do 3 different things. Now, the 3 different things that she talks about, she labels them as God, plan, move. Those are the 3 things. So God is spending time reading the Bible and meditating on a verse and praying. Plan is looking over your calendar for the day and planning your day. And then move is just something that kind of the health related that takes care of your body, like drinking a glass of water, doing some exercise, things like that. So I want to share a quote from the book, and this is what Kat says. She says, "The heart behind God, plan, move is to create an on-ramp for our God time to infiltrate the rest of our day." And here's another quote for you. "Our God time is like the engine that moves us. Our plan time is like the frame and handlebars that steer us where God leads. And our move time like the tires that allow us to progress easily." So I just love, love, love this whole, the whole heart behind this little plan, the little 3-minute morning routine, is that you start with God, and that is kind of what gives you the power to move, to move forward. The plan part is where we seek God and plan out our day. And then the move part, how we take care of our bodies, gives us the strength to carry out the mission that God, the purpose that He has set for us to accomplish that day. So the plan is for the God time, when we start out our day with God, it helps infiltrate the rest of our day, everything that we do the rest of our day. So now when I first read in this book, the 3-minute morning routine, I just thought, wait a minute, you can't get anything done in just 3 minutes. Most exercise programs, you at least do 15 minutes. And, I thought my morning routine needs to have much more in it than just 3 minutes worth of stuff. But then I thought back and I remembered all my big plans for my morning routines in the past. I had big plans where I would sit down and have, Bible reading and study time for at least a half an hour. And then I wanted to do at least 15 to 30 minutes of exercise. And then, I'm sure you can relate. We all have big plans of what we want to include in our day before it gets started. And if you're like me, we tried, and we maybe did okay for a couple days, and then we just kind of gave up. It was too much, and we couldn't keep up with it. And if I didn't have the time to devote to, a whole half an hour for my Bible study time, or if I didn't have 15 minutes in there where I could exercise, I just didn't do anything. And so I wanted to share some lessons that I am learning because of this 3-minute morning routine. There's some really neat things that, here I kind of brushed this off when I first read it, thinking, no, there's no way. This is not going to accomplish anything. But as I've read through the book and started implementing some of these things, it really is amazing the progress that you can make. So let's look at some of these lessons that I've learned. And it's really helped change my thinking about my morning routine. The first lesson is that starting small removes excuses. Now, kind of like I said, for most of us, our number one excuse for not doing a morning routine is that we just don't have enough time. Well, when you start out with just a 3-minute morning routine, you really can't use that excuse. You really can't say that you don't have 3 minutes. I mean, a lot of us lay in bed for 3 minutes after the alarm goes off because we don't want to get out of bed. So if you have, we all have 3 minutes that we can sit down and just devote to this very short morning routine. And when you start out really small like that, it removes that excuse for you and makes it totally doable. It just changes your whole mindset when you think, 3 minutes, I can do a minute of this and a minute of that and then a minute of that. I can do that. I can do it. So that moves into the next tip, and that is that starting small helps you create habits. Now, as I said before, in the past when I've tried to get a morning routine going where I had my quiet time and I had some exercise time and I just planned too much, and then I ended up getting overwhelmed and I just quit. And I could never get any momentum going. Now, when you start small with just the 3 minutes, it gives you a routine to do that is not overwhelming and it's very doable. You touch on all 3 of these areas of importance every morning, and it allows you to start making that time a habit. It gives you a foundation to build upon. And each day, as you do that 3-minute morning routine, you're working at building habits that will serve you well the rest of your life. Here's another quote from the book. A 3-minute goal may not bring applause, but it will bring results. Once it becomes, I love that quote before I go on. That's kind of what I thought when I first read about the 3-minute, morning routine. I thought, that's not really big and glorious. That's not really much to brag about. But it does bring results because as you do this 3-minute morning routine, once it becomes a habit, then you can build on that and add more time or add some different activities. But when days come when you just don't have as much time, or maybe you're not feeling well and you don't think you can do, maybe the longer sessions that you've been working up to, you can revert back to that original 3-minute routine and keep that habit going without feeling like that you have failed and that you've totally dropped the ball. You can still accomplish something, and it gives you the motivation to keep going and not to quit. How many of us have had seasons of our lives that have been extra busy and stressful, and maybe we have done really good with our morning routine and we worked ourselves up to maybe doing exercising for half an hour and spending time in God's Word, and maybe there's some other things that you've added into your morning routine and it's been going really, really well, and then all of a sudden something happens. Maybe there's some type of a medical emergency in the family, maybe everybody comes down sick, or something like that comes up and it totally throws us off, and our mornings come and we don't have the time or the energy to devote to that level of commitment that we have been going at. And so a lot of times we just kind of brush it off and say, I just won't be able to do that today. And the next day comes and the same thing happens. I just don't have time. I'm too stressed. I've got too much on my plate. The kids are sick. I'm tired. I just want to sleep. And if we just don't have the time and the energy to devote to that level of commitment, then we just give up And after several days or a week of doing that, then we start wallowing in our own guilt and regrets, and then we just quit. We just don't even want to, we're not motivated to pick back up and get going again. So this 3-minute routine, even though it's not something necessarily that you want to stay at, although you can, and it's encouraged to stay at that 3-minute mark until you've established a really good habit of that time in the morning. But if you've been able to work up and you have seasons in your life that just are really demanding and stressful, then don't feel bad about going back, paring it back down to that 3-minute routine or just a much shorter version of what you've been doing so that you can still keep that habit going. You can still touch base with God, touch base with your daily schedule, what absolutely needs to be done that day, and be able to do some type of exercise, even if it's just, doing some jumping jacks in place for a minute or doing some push-ups or some squats. I mean, you can just do things real easily that will just get the blood pumping, get you moving, help you feel like you've done something to improve your health that day without feeling like you have to do a full 15 to 30-minute workout. So I love that because starting small, it helps you get those habits in place. And plus, it gives you something that you can kind of revert back to when you need to in those seasons of life that get just overwhelming. The next thing is that starting small makes you look at your why. Now, this was something that I hadn't really thought about before, but the choices that we make now will affect our future. So when we're working at building habits and starting small in our morning routine, we need to think about our why. Why do I need to read my Bible every day? Why do I need to plan out my day well? And why do I need to get my body moving? In Hello Mornings in the book, Kat talks about how we need to think about the future and look at the bigger picture. For example, I need to read my Bible every day, not just so that I can check it off my list for that day and feel good about that, but so that I can get to know Jesus more and be instructed and guided by His Word daily, so I can continue to grow as a Christian. Another example with exercise, sometimes we just tend to think in the right now. I want to exercise because I need to lose 5 pounds this week, or I want to lose, 10 pounds this month. And so therefore I need to exercise so I can lose this weight. But we need to look at the bigger picture, and that we need to exercise and we need to move our bodies so that we can be healthy for years to come, so that we can have the ability to walk out the purpose and the plan that God has for our life. So these small decisions and the habits that we create now will not only serve some sort of short-term goal that we may have, but it will also affect the rest of our life. So I just keep that in perspective, as we are trying to work on our morning routines. Keep that in the back of our minds, that it is not just about accomplishing something for right now, but these are habits that we're creating that will have consequences far into the future, that will affect who we are becoming. It will affect our relationships. It will affect our health in the long term. So think about those things, and that, just those small, even by starting small, you are doing something every single day to move yourself forward in those areas in your life. And don't make that morning routine so overwhelming that you just give up because it's just too much. Now, while this concept of starting small works wonderful for your morning routine, it is also something that you can apply to other areas of your life. What are some areas of your life that you need to work on? What big projects do you want to complete that are totally overwhelming to you? How can you start small and get a habit in place first and then build on that over time? So just to maybe to give you some examples, I know I've talked about, your Bible reading time and exercise and planning your day, but there are other areas of your life, that you can apply this to. Maybe it's menu planning. Maybe it's so overwhelming thinking about planning out a whole month of menus. Start small and just say, okay, for this week, I'm going to plan out our breakfasts. And that's it. I mean, the other meals, I'm just going to kind of wing it if I have to, but I'm going to get a schedule. I'm going to write down what we're going to have for breakfast every day. And just do that for a couple weeks. And then maybe the next week you'll plan out your dinner menu and add that to your menu. And then maybe your lunch. Plan out your lunches if you plan out all three meals of your day. Start small. Another area would be maybe you are a crafter. Maybe you love to do crafts, and I'll give an example because I like to crochet. So let's say that you have some projects that you're working on that you really want to crochet some dishcloths for family and have them for Christmas, to give for Christmas gifts. And it's really overwhelming thinking, okay, I've got to sit down and I need to just crochet all these dishcloths and get them all done so that they're ready, for Christmas. But why don't you start small and say, okay, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes every day and crochet. And that's it. And once the 5 minutes is over, I can be done for the day. And if I want to do more, I can, but I don't have to. I'm just going to commit to doing 5 minutes every day. And that's it. I'm not committing myself to crochet a whole dishcloth every day or 5 dishcloths every day, whatever, 5 minutes. Or maybe you like to knit and you're going to commit to doing, 5 rows in whatever project you're working on. I'm going to knit 5 rows and then I'm going to be done for the day. So just some different things that you can think about. What is it in your life that you are struggling with that you want to work on? Start really small. Give yourself an attainable daily goal that you can work on, and just do that for a while, for a couple weeks or a month. Get that into a habit and then increase it a little bit. And I just want to encourage you, again, this book has been a life changer. It's been wonderful. And like I said, it's just really getting into setting up the morning routine actually, but all of the background information on what it is and how to do it. It's just been amazing. So I encourage you again to check out Hello Mornings by Kat Lee. The link will be in the show notes. And we would also love to have you join our book club. I have a paid membership community that it's a chat community. And we just have a lot of fun in there. We have time where we have prayer requests. We can pray for each other. We have those of us that are doing Trim Healthy Mama. We have some encouragement. We encourage each other in that. We have some exercise accountability in there. Obviously, our book club. We have a book club that we answer questions every week as we read through the chapters. It's just been a lot of fun, just being able to encourage each other as Christian women. So if that is interesting to you at all, I will put a link for that in the show notes where you can go and check that out as well. So I want to thank you again for joining me here at the Intentional Home Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Intentional Home Podcast in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. For more information about my podcast and to see the show notes with all the links to the resources that I've mentioned, just go to sherrygraham.com/podcast. Thanks and have a wonderful day.